Tuck and Tuck Show.
Hello there, everybody. Welcome to the Tuck and Tuck Show. We are here with our special guests, Camille Allen and Liz Shultz from the Oberlin Heritage Center. How you guys doing today?
Great.
Great.
Doing well.
Cold day out there today compared to what we had the rest of this week, huh?
Absolutely.
So why don't you guys just fill us in on exactly what the Oberlin Heritage Center is?
Sure. I'll start and then hand things over to Camille. So the Oberlin Heritage Center is a local historical society here in town. If you're from Oberlin or familiar with Oberlin, we are located behind the post office or behind the Lorenzo's in the middle of the block there. So we have 4 historic buildings that we take care of, and we also have community collections that people have donated over time, like photographs, letters, archives, objects. But a lot of our work focuses on education. So we do outreach programs to schools and adult groups. We have programs at the library occasionally or other organizations in town. We help with research requests, student projects, so many things that I can't think of right now.
Yeah, sounds like you guys got quite a bit going on. Now, a lot of people don't even know about you guys.
And that's sad.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people's family history in that Heritage Center that I didn't even know about. I went down there one time and I found a bunch of pictures of my grandfather and great-grandfather. And
Awesome.
you got pictures of my family in there?
I did. Yeah.
Oh, you've been spying on us, huh?
Well, we like to share it with people who are interested. And your family generously shared them with us so that others could learn.
Oh, all right. So what is exactly your job that you do at the Heritage Center?
So I'm the director. We're small enough that I get to do quite a bit of everything. So I fill in for tours when needed, but right now I'm working on grant applications for next year. We want to get our collections database online so it's easier for everyone to see what we have at the Heritage Center. We're working on our program lineup for next year. So what are we doing for Black History Month, Women's History Month, our annual meeting, and just getting ready for the next year.
You guys take donations and you get federally funded too?
For the most part, we are funded by individuals, so community members who are members of the organization or donors who give to our annual fund. We do get grants, hopefully from the Community Foundation, Nord Family Foundation, to help us with, keeping the lights on and doing the administrative work of a nonprofit. But for the most part, it's funded by local people. We're not part of the college or the city.
Oh, okay. Okay, now
And that's important to know.
Yeah.
That you would think it's an Oberlin Historical Center that we would be funded in part by the city or the college, right. And that is not where the contributions come. And a lot of the work is done by volunteers.
Okay.
That's my role. I'm a volunteer.
Okay. Now, I mean, the college has archives. Do you guys ever go to the archives and get information from them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've got a good relationship of we know what they have. So when people come to us and say, who used to live in my house, we can usually help them with that through city directories and maps and things. But if they say, hey, I think my grandmother went to the college, what can you tell me? We can get them started, but then we say, you should really be visiting the Oberlin College archives. Okay. And sometimes they will start at the archives, and then they'll send them over to us if it's more community history.
Okay.
All right, well, also in Oberlin, I know there's a genealogy group. Do you guys work hand in hand with the genealogy group? I know Mrs. My memory is so bad. Phyllis, man, I can't. Hogan, Phyllis Hogan. Do you ever work with Miss Hogan? Because I know she's done a lot of research.
She and I, with another couple of other people now still living, were co-founders of the Oberlin African American History and Genealogy Group.
Okay, because I know she said she did some studies all the way in Utah. Because
yes.
She said the Mormons had a large library.
The largest.
Because they kept track of everything that they did and owned and married. So have you ever been out there?
I have never been, but
No?
Phyllis has.
Yeah. So do you guys do a lot of work together?
Absolutely.
Okay, a lot of one-word answers here.
Well,
You're killing me.
One word questions.
Well, sometimes they'll invite us to do programs, or we try to help promote some of their programs as well. Somebody who used to work for the Heritage Center, Pat Holsworth, who has since passed away, she developed a genealogy database of almost everyone in town if they showed up in census or genealogy or city records up through about the 1920s or 30s or so. So I know OAG uses that quite a bit. So we are aware of each other's programs and do try to support, but one of our missions is anyone who's interested in history, we want to help you get the resources and information you need to preserve whatever you're interested in.
How far back does it actually go? Does it go like from the beginning of Oberlin? Or?
The database does. If she had a record, so if somebody said they were a founder of Oberlin, she added an entry there. I think tax records maybe started in the 1840s, but they only will list, the men who own property. So it's not everyone in town.
Oh, okay. So there's like no registration for people who were born or here or...
I don't think she was able to add like birth records and
Right.
death records. Those do exist though, and we've uploaded them. Don Hilton is another local historian who's done a lot of research into death records, and they are fascinating. So if you go on our website, you'll be able to look at some of those too.
Yeah, the website was kind of tough. It doesn't really take you to where you want to go, it seems like. So I don't want to complain, but I had a hard time going through the website because a lot of stuff, it wouldn't tell you certain things, and then you had to go somewhere else to find something else. But anyway, everybody's website seems to have problems with it in some way or some form. So
We appreciate the feedback. It's in our next strategic plan to update the
I know,
website.
Plus, I know money is a thing for websites too.
But once again, volunteers do a lot of work.
So they don't.
One
all
of the big
inputting.
projects I was involved in after I retired was going out to the cemetery and getting each and every headstone
Oh.
with a GPS coordinate and a picture.
Right.
And there are 10,000 burials out
Right.
there. So it didn't take a day. It took
A couple months.
years
Oh.
because if there are leaves, you can't get a GPS reading, right? And some of the stones, if you've been out there, are kind of buried under the water
Right.
or under,
Ground.
yeah,
Grass has grown over.
right.
Yeah.
But I think now we really do have a pretty good site for the Westwood Cemetery.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're going to stop right there, and then we're going to take a break, and after that, we'll come right back.
Sure.
Welcome to Johnny's.
Johnny's Carryout is where you can find an extreme variety of your favorite spirits, wines, and craft beer. Located at 12290 Levitt Road, Oberlin, Ohio at the intersection of Butternut Ridge Road and State Route 58. Whether you are hosting a social get-together, relaxing at home, or entertaining guests, Johnny's Carryout has the perfect pairing. Come and check out our amazing selection of fine wines, our incredible collection of domestic and craft beers, and awesome assortment of premium spirits. We also have a variety of non-alcoholic selections. Visit Johnny's Carryout at 12990 Levitt Road in Oberlin, Ohio, today.
Prestige Detailing, your premier mobile auto detailing service, bringing the car wash to you. You can have your car detailed right where you are. We service a 50-mile radius of Oberlin, Ohio, ensuring that our exceptional service comes straight to you. Visit our website or give us a call to schedule an appointment today.
Welcome back to the Tuck and Tuck Show.
All right. We're back with Camille and Liz. Man, I am off today. And since you've been doing all this this work, have you found a lot of interesting stories about Oberlin families?
I think all the families in Oberlin are interesting, but for me, my own family was how I started. It's a genealogy interest, and then learning how to do the research And it's not just the Historical Society, but the Oberlin African American Genealogy Group also. That ties in. And then recognizing all the families that are interconnected in Oberlin.
Oh, yeah.
And who got here when. It's really wonderful to have a place where we can keep these documents. Right now, if it wasn't for the Heritage Center, we wouldn't have extensive files on families.
Right. So, like, for example, when did your family arrive in Oberlin? Do you know?
Oh, we're newcomers. We didn't. We didn't get here to the 1920s, but they were coming from Urbana, Ohio.
Okay.
Where they'd been since before the Civil War.
And you still have relatives there in Urbana?
No, not one.
Really? They all left?
They all left.
Yeah, because I know I did, like, me and my father, we did our great-great-grandmother's side, and she was from Gallipolis.
I know Gallipolis.
And we went down there, and we could see, where they came over the Ohio River, and see where because back then, she was buried in the cemetery, but the cemetery was even segregated.
It was?
Yeah, back then they segregated cemeteries, but the segregated cemetery was better. It was kept better than the normal one because it was under the city. So the city had to take care of it, which was strange, but it was taken better care of than the other cemetery. But a lot of people most black people came from the South. So do you track people that came, different families, where they came from and how they got here?
If you look at the Bigglestone book for the early families, yes, you'll know when and how they got here for the Bigglestone research. My own family, odd thing about my family, both my mother's father and my father's father were born before the Civil War, which is you think, well, that's not possible. I'm not that old. However, in that, you have a different kind of history,
right?
And it's one that was hard for me to research.
Yeah, because actually my grandfather was born in 1893. Would you think, how is that possible?
My grandfather was born in 1858.
Yeah, so you think how is that possible? But my grandfather, he had my dad when he was much older.
Exactly.
So that's how that happened. And I think his dad was born around 1856. I think Henson was born around 1856. So, but we have actually a book from our family where it was traced back for all the Tucks. There's a whole. Yeah, we have a cousin that came from Seattle, and he wrote a whole book about the whole family.
Oh, wow.
Do we have a copy?
No, we don't.
My copy is in archives at the college.
Perfect.
So if you ever, get bored, you want to come up here and take a look at it.
No, it was actually your grandfather who took my father under his wing to teach him the painting and paper business.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You said my grandfather or my
grandfather?
Okay, or great-grandfather.
Well, old Archie.
His dad. All right. Our dad's dad.
Old Archie.
Great-grandfather.
I would think so.
Yeah, he was the one that had the store downtown.
That was
okay. Henson.
No,
Henson, then Archie, then Archie.
Archie.
Right.
So first Archie.
Okay. We got you. We're clear. So when you have events for Black History, what do you have speakers come in, or are there workshops? What exactly does that entail?
Yeah, so every year it's a little bit different. So last year, Ebony Johnson, now a city council member, she talked about the woman who became the first African-American librarian in the country, who had studied at Oberlin College. So she did a program at the Oberlin Public Library that was open to the public. Previous years, I think when we were still in COVID, we were doing virtual programs. So I'm not sure if it was Black History Month or Women's History Month, but we had somebody who joined us from the Chicago area to talk about Ida B. Wells versus a woman from Oberlin, and how they had kind of a clash in the late 1800s and early 1900s over kind of issues of women's rights and how race played into that or was somewhat ignored by white people at the time too. So every year we try to find something slightly different. For next year, we have done a program in the past about African-American business owners, and every time we do the program, we usually get more information by the time we want to do it again. So we might do that one again for the public and hopefully get more people contributing.
Okay. What was the first family in Oberlin,
indigenous
first
people.
Settler. Before anybody else.
Well, the Peas were probably the ones who were...
Peter Pender Peas, is that it?
Yeah.
All of them who actually cleared the land so that the college could get started and the community could, start to be built. So if you think about it, the college and the town are simultaneously constructed.
Yeah, well, I know we're known for a lot of stuff.
So
I know that.
So is it easy to mesh the two together, the college and the town? Because at this point, it seems like they're so separate. But back then, like you said, they had to come up together. Then it's kind of like they split. Mm-hmm. So do you have like a lot of interesting stories about people from the college that worked in the town as well, like combined?
Yeah, I think in the early years, it was very hard to separate the two because the finances were all tied together. A lot of the people who were in charge of one were in charge of the other. And a lot of people who came first were affiliated with the college. But once you started getting that population, then you started to have, business people and others, carriage makers, blacksmiths, tinsmiths, everyone who needed to support the town too. But I do think the interests, relationships ran together for probably the first 100 years, and that's just a generalization. But I do think after that you start to just see separate interests in town and more people who have no affiliation with the college. They're just coming to live in a nice small town.
Yeah, it's starting to become different.
Well, one thing that is incredibly different, in the 1800s, when African Americans came to settle, often they had businesses. I never knew that, where the museum is?
Right.
That was called Patterson's Corner. All owned, that whole area on that side of the street was black owned. I believe he had a boarding house, a grocery store, and I don't know if there was anything else, but those two. There was, in terms of downtown, an African-American woman who not only was the hat designer, but also owned the building. Now, I don't think African-Americans own any buildings in downtown Oberlin now. There was, where Black River Cafe is, that land was owned, and businesses, a barber, a restaurant, a boarding house owned by African-Americans. There were the Evanses, who not only were carpenters and cabinet makers, but also could run funerals.
Oh.
I mean, there was a lot.
Yeah.
I think there was a stable and a shoe shop also black owned. But this is all downtown Oberlin.
Right. Really?
You find one business that owns the building and run a business downtown now. So all that's gone.
Yeah, and how did they lose it? They just, families let it go, didn't want to deal with it anymore. Moved on,
in some cases, we know it's true. It's owned for a while or run a while, and then the next generation isn't interested in taking over.
Right.
Just like Henson owned that paint store, but Art didn't want to do it. Yeah, he didn't want to be a painter.
Good example.
Yeah. There you go. All right, we're going to go to break, and then we'll come right back after this.
Hi, welcome to the ARB.
Looking for an excellent restaurant? Then visit the ARB at Tappan Square, located at 19 West College Street in beautiful downtown Oberlin. Serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in or take it to go. Visit www.thearboberlin.com to order online. The ARB is open Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Be sure to visit the ARB at Tappan Square in Oberlin today.
Thanks for coming to the ARB. Come back again. Bye.
Hi, I'm Doobies, and this is Doobies Smoke Shop.
That's what I'm talking about.
Doobies Smoke Shop is located at 25 West College Street in beautiful downtown Oberlin. Doobies has an excellent selection of incense, candles, cones, glass cleaner, and so much more. Stop on by Doobies Smoke Shop located at 25 West College Street today.
Welcome back to the Tuck and Tuck Show.
Welcome back to the Tuck and Tuck Show. We're here with Liz and Camille talking about the Oberlin Heritage Foundation. In between the break, we were talking about the Oberlin Wellington Rescue. Mm-hmm. And you guys want to just fill us. We'll go back to talking about it again. Let's put it that way, because we had some very interesting stuff. There's a whole documentary done on it. And
Yeah, so it was started just before COVID, and that kind of slowed the whole process down. But there's a new documentary. It's about 90 minutes. It's called A Higher Law, the Oberlin Wellington Rescue of 1858. So do you want like the 2-minute version of the rescue?
Yeah, because a lot of people don't even know about the rescue.
Sure. Well, there's background to it, too. So Oberlin was a major station of the Underground Railroad, partly dating back to when Oberlin College began accepting students regardless of color, which was only decided by one vote, but that one vote began accepting students. More free families of color began moving to Oberlin, and it really just transformed the town into not so much like individual houses being stations, but the community was an Underground Railroad station. And things just continue to get more and more tense as you get closer to the Civil War, and northern and southern states just not compromising on a lot of issues. So what happened, John Price had escaped from slavery in Kentucky in 1856, and he was going to go all the way up to Canada, but it was so cold that winter. That's what allowed him to cross the Ohio River out of Kentucky, but it also meant there was ice in Lake Erie, so boats weren't going to Canada right at that moment. So he backtracked and came to live in Oberlin fairly quietly. We don't know a lot about his life here in town.
He was a student here too, right? He went to Oberlin College.
Not as far as we know for
He
John
didn't go?
Price. John Copeland did, who was later involved in John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry.
Okay.
But we don't think John Price did.
Okay. And then the documentary has been released?
It has, yes. So we had a major showing in April at the Apollo, and since then more classrooms and others have been showing it. So all of the high school and middle school students from Oberlin got to visit the Apollo just a few weeks ago. That was organized by Harriet Thomas and Kurt Russell. And then the high school had an evening program available to the public as well. So if people are interested, we have copies at the Heritage Center, but also free copies at the library. Anyone who's interested in this story. So basically, John was recognized by slave catchers and was under threat of being returned back to enslaved life in Kentucky, but hundreds of people rallied around the hotel in Wellington where he was being kept, and they broke him out and helped him get away, believe up to freedom in Canada. But there was a long trial and arrest based on basically townspeople were breaking the fugitive slave law, and they used this as an opportunity to say, even though we were breaking the law, this was the right thing to do.
Right. Yeah, 'cause a lot of people don't know that even when slaves escaped and made it up here, they can still be taken back and still were in slavery.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I always heard about that, but I never knew the details of the story. So I'm pretty sure some people now don't know the story period, and especially not the details.
And it's a fascinating story. And I mean, it's one moment, but in telling that one story, you can talk about what's happening in the nation at that time, what's happening in Oberlin. And the documentary, I also think, does a great job of saying Oberlin had these great abolitionist years, but it started to backslide, like Camille was talking about, with the loss of downtown businesses and increasing segregation in Oberlin. So it doesn't just stop at the Civil War. It tries to continue into why it's so important to be still talking about these kinds of stories today.
Yeah, because during the break, you also mentioned redlining. And I never think Oberlin would go through something like that, because it's such a small town. How could you possibly redline it?
Well, not in the, I guess, formal sense of insurance maps,
Right.
but we do have records of real estate agents back in the 1913. There's a letter of a real estate agent asking the president of Oberlin College, do you think I have the right to show a black family into a white neighborhood on the west side of town? And that real estate agent said he didn't think he had the right to do that. And the college president didn't really stop it either. So there was that happening casually. We have stories of people going to banks for loans or other things, and they won't even consider it. There's no reason, and of course they don't give a verbal reason. You can't claim it's racism, but it clearly is. There's no reason they're not getting the loan otherwise. And then I did a program on this. We talked about North Prospect Street and that being constructed, and how there was so much argument against Eva Mae Crosby putting a development up in there. And, they have all the reasons, but I'm sure it is all race-based at the time.
Yeah,
Wow.
It's clear that it's race-based.
And you don't really think about that in Oberlin,
Well,
me,
There
because
are covenants, language in the deed that says from one property owner who has the deed that, no, this house will never be sold to an African American. Then it was just a colored person. Right. And these are in the deeds in some properties in Oberlin.
Wow.
Yeah, because even during the intermission, Nikki's off camera, and the house that she lives in was built by her grandfather. But he couldn't get a loan to build a house, so he had to build the house like one room at a time, right, Nikki? You can speak up because you're always talking during the intermission anyway. Yeah, so he actually had to build. He built it himself, and because we own the Marshalls own all that land on North Main, down where she lives at, all the way to Professor, and they own the field across from Professor as well. They sold it during the Depression for money. So I mean, I don't know about other families, but we pretty much, because of Molly and Tony, we knew a lot. We all know a lot of stuff about our family. I do on both sides. So, and you said some of the book. He said that book from our family is in the library, right?
In the archives, yeah.
So if you want to ever look it up, it's in there.
Absolutely, definitely.
So I mean, Oberlin is a very interesting place, and it's always different than the surrounding communities, because it's, even though we had, like you said, deeds can only be passed from one white family to another white family. It always seemed like Oberlin was more accepting of everybody in this community as opposed to other communities.
I think that was true.
Yeah, that's very true.
We even talk about sundown towns where you knew after sundown that you better not be there.
Right?
Amherst used to be one.
You said it. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah, and that wasn't that long ago. Well,
you're not really that old. Yeah,
I know.
If we know it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of them around here.
So
just kind of crazy.
What you guys are doing is great. I wish we could go more in depth, but we have this is the end of the segment, unfortunately.
It goes fast.
Yeah, it goes very fast. But you're doing a great service. So do you have any upcoming events that you want to talk about?
Sure. Well, November 3rd, 4th, and 5th is Oberlin College's Parents Weekend, but we offer a lot more public tours on that weekend, so they're open to everyone. But we have history walks about the architecture of town, one about freedom. It's called Freedom's Friends. It's about Oberlin's abolitionist years. We have one called Civil War to Civil Rights, which gets into abolition, but also Jim Crow after that. So people can come to that. We also have trivia night coming up on November 10th. So you
guys should, you know this, you should call the college so you can get your stuff put in their book for Parents Weekend.
Yes.
They hand out the book, so.
That means a lot to have that public support coming to our
right,
events.
because a lot of parents, they'll walk around here and don't know what to do, so.
All right, where can we find you? What platforms are you on, like social media or?
For the most part, our website, and then we have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. So do join it or follow us on Facebook, because we usually try to have thematic history posts on there as well.
And Facebook is just Oberlin Heritage?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Something simple.
Yeah. So it's just Facebook, not like Instagram or X or nothing like that?
What goes on our Instagram page is pretty much similar
same
to
thing.
what's on
All
Facebook.
right. I just want people to be able to find you in case they want to look you up.
Thank you. We have trouble enough with our address is 73 and a half, and back in the early days of GPS, people looked up our physical address and it would send them to the cemetery.
Well, no half sizes in GPS.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's going to be our show for this week.
Thank you very much.
We'd like to thank our sponsors, who are
Oberlin Weekly,
Doobies Smoke Shop,
The Arb,
Prestige
Johnny's Carry Out,
Detailing.
and Prestige Detailing. All right.
I always forget all of them.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
This has been another bomb-ass production from Shore Walk